All right, guys, here's another interesting one, and it's going to be the last one who gets spotlighted individually in a video. It is Johnathan Abram, a safety who was released by the Las Vegas Raiders midseason and was picked up by the Seahawks in an attempt to bolster their defensive backfield through some injuries. Jamal got hurt, Ryan Neal got hurt, Josh Jones got hurt. We just needed some help. So we bring in John Abram. And Johnathan Abram, I thought he played all right. He was kind of like the super poor man's, maybe you could call him like the broke man's Jamal Adams. We were able to use him a little bit on blitzing, and there was definitely a sense that he was bringing a little bit of a physical force to the defense that guys like Josh Jones simply couldn't. I'm not going to say he played great or anything, but he played interesting. What he brought was enough to make me feel like, look, we've got, well, okay, let me put it this way. We know Jamal Adams is unlikely to play a full season in 2023. He'll probably never be able to play a full season again. We're hoping he gets like 12 or 13 games, misses a few games in the middle of the season with a minor injury he can come back from, and then we can have him for the end of the season. Like, that's the goal with Jamal Adams. The way he plays football, a 17-game season is unthinkable. So we got to get a good backup in here. And Johnathan Abram is not only decent, I think, but he's also bringing some of the things that Jamal Adams does to the table. Now, we can't really afford to pay a bunch of money to another safety. But I do think this guy's going to cost a little bit more than minimum or min plus. Mostly because of the draft pedigree. Now, the good news is, clearly that draft pedigree doesn't carry that much weight in the league anymore because he was released a couple times this season and he floated around for a while. There was not a big effort by a bunch of teams to jump on him and take him and be like, oh, this is our guy now. No, he floated around out there. There was no trade market developing for him when he was a Raider, and once he was a free agent, it actually took a little bit of time for him to get picked up. There was not any sense that, like, oh my god, we all have to jump on this guy. Now, also, PFF, not a fan of Johnathan Abram. I'll say that straight up. They have never liked him. They didn't like him last year when he was playing for the Raiders and Seahawks. I think he did probably play a little bit better for the Seahawks than the Raiders, but for whatever it's worth, PFF anti-Johnathan Abram. Do not go to them if you want positive things said about Johnathan Abram. They think he's terrible. So there's definitely some things holding him back from getting some money, but I think it's going to be something. So figuring out what that could be is hard. I'm going to do my best and be aware that Johnathan Abram is definitely the kind of player who will end up taking veteran minimum money for a year because there's no money out there. There are players out there, when they hit free agency, you know they're going to get paid. It doesn't matter if there's not a lot of money out there because the player's that good. When Von Miller became a free agent, you knew he was going to get big money because he's Von Miller. It didn't matter if teams were strapped for cash. Somebody would make it happen. Even some more mid-level guys, somebody who's not as good as a Johnathan Abram, even somebody like an Uchenna Nwosu, you know he's going to get something decent. But a guy like a Johnathan Abram, I can sit here and say he should get this, but there might just not be any offers out there for him because he's such a flawed player. But let's take a look at some of these safety contracts. Let's blow past the top of the list because obviously there's just no way Abram is anywhere near any of these guys. Let's go all the way down, all the way down, all the way down to Malik Hooker of the Dallas Cowboys. Signed a 2-year, $7 million deal, so it was $3.5 million per. Malik Hooker after 2021. 2021, Malik Hooker signed a 1-year deal with the Cowboys and kind of played a role similar to what Abram might do here. He started a few games, played in most games, but he didn't play a lot, didn't put up any huge numbers. He was just kind of a solid depth contributor for the Cowboys on defense. So what did he do in 2021 according to PFF? He was actually quite good all around. He was great in run defense and a solid cover player. So Malik Hooker, I don't think we're there yet, but we're in the same area. We're looking at guys here who are signed because of what they did in limited action and are being looked at as guys who can also provide good depth. And by the way, Malik Hooker was a guy who went in the first round, so the draft pedigree argument also applies to Malik Hooker. So let's keep going past Malik Hooker. Let's look at George Odom with the 49ers. After 2021, he signed a deal that was worth about $3.2 million a year. It was a 3-year deal, which is interesting. Usually a low-level player like this would not get a 3-year deal, but he did. So George Odom in 2021, what did he give you for the Indianapolis Colts? You can see he actually made the All-Pro team in 2020. In 2021, he played in every game, but only started in 7 of them. He was relatively prolific. He put up some pretty good numbers, so it's not really a great comp to Johnathan Abram yet, who really didn't put up those big numbers. And if you take a look at PFF, they thought he was a pretty solid player in 2021. Nothing special, nothing over the top. But I don't think we're there yet. Now, Odom didn't have any draft pedigree. He was actually undrafted, but doesn't feel like we're quite there yet. So this next guy that I want to look at here is somebody who signed a 3-year, $9 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. This was after 2021. It's Siran Neal. So Siran Neal, let's take a look here at what he did in 2021. It seems like we might have a little something here. He played in every game, but he didn't start any of them. He played just a little bit on defense. He was a depth player. And when he did play, if you go to PFF, they didn't like him either. They didn't give him any good grades, actually. They gave him some pretty bad grades. So this is a guy who doesn't have the draft pedigree, but obviously when you sign him, you're thinking about him as a depth player, as a backup, as maybe a little bit of a special teamer, and you're not really expecting to get anything great from him on defense, but you are aware that at the very least he belongs on an NFL roster. So this might be the comp. This might be the rough comp. A player who didn't play very well, but played, and the team decides to give him a little bit of money to stick around as a backup. And you can, as you can see, in 2022, he also did not start any games. 16 games played, but he didn't start in any of them. He did play a little bit on defense, but not a lot. So I think we've kind of found the rough comp area. So being objective about Johnathan Abram as a player, trying to judge where this could go, I think we've kind of found the sweet spot. I think you're looking at about $2.5 to $3 million a year. It's going to be in that Siran Neal range. If I had to guess, based off what I'm looking at with these contracts, it seems like 1 year $3 million, maybe 2 years $6 million, but it's going to be $3 million a year. Again, this is a player who has already hit the market and not really been coveted, so decent chance that he gets out there and nobody cares about him, nobody gives him anything, and he takes vet min, which, of course, I would be all over that. But if I'm trying to judge it based off what we've seen other similar players get, other players in similar positions get, I say 1 year, $3 million. Would I do that? I kind of feel obligated to, because he can do some of the Jamal Adams stuff. I know Jamal's not going to play the whole season, and at the very least, it feels like he would contribute enough to be worth $3 million. But if that number goes down a little bit, even to like $2 million, I'm all over it. At $3 million, I'm hesitant. I think I still do it, but I'm certainly not in love with it. And if I do it, it might be a thing where I put $1 million in a void year in 2024, and then I only owe him $2 million against the cap in 2023. But that's my take on Johnathan Abram. Not a lot to work with here. Tough to judge. That's what I got, though. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I overshot? Johnathan Abram, what's he going to be worth? See you guys later.